Hello everyone, sorry about that. That is the worst thing when you are recording with your phone and you get a phone call. It completely stops the video, which is fine because I guess most people do editing. I just am lazy and busy and don't like to do the editing part. So as I was showing you, all of this is just off track here. It's just insanity. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to get, I don't know if it's really hard to show. So see this little knob right in the middle? That is connected to, I guess I could do this. Here we go. Make the eyes go up and down. That's the little bar that it connects to the side bar that goes left and right. And that is what has come off track. So what I've got to do now is I've got to carefully, I'm going to do this laying down. I've got to get that little bar back between the one that goes left and right. And then I have to try to get the eye back on track. And now the eye has turned. So now I've got to try to turn the eye. Oh, you know, it's funny, I've done this before too. I turned the eye completely the wrong way and I put it in and snapped it, thought I got somewhere. And I ended up turning the eye upside down. And that was very annoying. So, yep, so her eye is facing the right way. So now I've just got to snap it back into those places. So you can see this is a lot of work. Like, it is not super easy if they come undone, but it can be fixed. All right, like I said, the big thing is trying to keep that middle bar in. It has to stay connected. Because really, that's what holds everything in place, and that is why it comes apart so easy. There we go, snapped, and now that should be, and there you go. So she's back. No. So it's such a, you know, they just did everything so weird and so cheap. But as you see, this one is connected to this little L piece over here. Let me see if I can try to, so there's that one. You see I've got it back on there, so now it's pushing it up and down. And now this one is the small one here. That is the one, see, that whole little L-shaped thing is making it go left and right. It's just, whoever thought this stuff up. But, you know, hey, I'm glad it's all plastic because obviously that'd be an issue. Now, for this other Cricut, if I want to get those eyes out because they're yellow, I would have to go through all of this. All that trouble, pull all of these pieces out just so I can get those eyes out of the socket. I might, depending on once I get her running and see how bad the yellow is, I might just try to use the Retro Bright when it's still in her head, because a lot of times the yellow is only just where they've been frozen for a long time and then everything else is white. So all right, so that is pretty much how the inside of her head works. So now, you know, what I'll do is I'll go back in. This is easy. I was able to not snap those off, which is nice. So now I can just put this back in here. And maybe I'll do it fairly easy. And then you got to take this other piece and put it back down there and get the screws in and do all that good stuff. So, but just for time reasons, I am not going to do that now because we have played with this head long enough. But you see she is back in action. Her eyes are in. Everything's good. She's ready for another day. Okay, so that leaves us with this Cricut. So when I get a Cricut, the first thing I do, open her up, you know, make sure she looks okay, check her hair, check everything, go in the back, put batteries in them, and get a test tape and give her a play. So, wow, there she goes. I think my little brother woke up then. So she works good, and like I said, surprisingly her mouth is still moving, which I'm surprised about. Her eyes aren't moving at all. So that means she needs some loving there for her band for the eyes. And I don't know, I might not mess with her mouth because weirdly enough it's working really well. Alright, so to do that, first thing I do, you have to take the cassette player out. So when you open up this little piece here, you're going to see there is a little zip tie. You have to cut that zip tie off. So I have this little pair of little snip pliers, and I'm going to just go in, cut this off. because I have other zip ties that are exactly the same. So when I replace them, easy to do. I'm trying not to, I want to cut the zip tie, but I don't want to damage her vinyl. All right. So I snipped it, and there it is. You can pull it out. You can leave it in there. It's basically, there's like a little, like goes around the front of her neck, like a little tube. And this piece is just, it comes out. Nothing to it. Usually leave it in because when you're getting the other one in, it's hard to get it around. So I use that one. I stick the new one in and then pull the old one out. All right, so now the next thing is she has really old double-sided foam tape. So it starts up here on both of her shoulders and goes around. So it's old, so most of the time it's so brittle. Like it's holding, but it just comes right off. Now, if I want to replace this, I'm going to have to put new foam padding in there. But a lot of times I don't even bother because she stays intact once you put the zip tie and everything back on there, and odds are you're gonna probably have to go in there at some point again anyway and mess with something. So a lot of times I don't even bother. I used to when I first got them. All right, so now that I've got all of this pulled off around the side, I just pull this back and that's it. So here's her. This is literally just a doll body now. It's a big piece of foam. Foam actually looks good. Sometimes I've seen some really nasty moldy foam. And you know, you might have to clean it, but there she is. Like I said, it's just a glorified cassette player, and it just looks so funny to see it on a peachy body. But again, they were never made to be pulled out like that. All right, so now that I have that out, the easy part is you just got to take these 4 screws out of the front. I used to fix so many crickets. It's where I got started, really. Cricket and Corky, and I just kept going from there. And the reason I kept going with Jill is because she's just insanely complicated. Like, this is, to use the pun, child's play compared to Jill. These are so easy to fix most of the time. If it has anything to do with the cassette player, not so easy. So all right, let's see here. Yes. All right. Kitty was over on the side. Okay, so pull this up, and there you go. I've seen this before in other videos. So again, this is the one that is going to control her mouth, and then this little guy here is going to control her eyes. So I can see the band is very warped, and the knob itself is a little difficult to turn, but everything else looks really good. She's really clean on the inside. I don't see any corrosion or anything. So now I need to change these bands, and to do that you have to pull off this little like L-shaped thing here. Kind of looks like some kind of like retro 50s thing. All right, now when you pull this off though, you got to remember there is a little spring that is hidden underneath the one without the screw. And that is very easy to pop off and lose or forget to put back on. So I'm just kind of watching for that. All right, got that off, and I'm just going to leave those screws in with that because that'll go right back on. So there's a little bitty screw or spring that is on there, and I'm going to just leave it because it's kind of hanging tight. So here is her mouth band, and you see it actually looks pretty decent, but it is bent, and they make like a teardrop shape. And again, that is because she probably sat frozen for 10 years or whatever, and that rubber just hardened and kept shape. So there's that one, but the bigger issue is going to be this one. Look how bad this one is. That one is like super stretched and brittle. So what I'll do before I go and put new bands in, I just want to make sure that the motors are running. So I'm going to play her again without the bands and see what we get. You'll hear this noise. That's natural. So that's the motor, and that's the little spinny wheel that is going to get both of these moving. So everything's moving well. These are not locked up in any way. All right, so now Now the fun part, and I'll be honest, I haven't done one of these in so long that I don't even know what bands to use. But that's good because this is your first Cricut. You're trying to figure this out too. And I've done in the past videos, I order the bands. They're just like VHS bands, electronic bands. You can get them off of Amazon. But now I'm going to try to find matching ones. So this one's small, and pardon the mess because my bands are just all over the place, because usually it's pretty chaotic when I'm working on Jill. But I'm just trying to find one that matches, and it needs to be pretty close or smaller. If it's bigger, it's definitely not going to work. So this one, even though they look like they're the same size, if I pull that one like a teardrop, you see it's bigger, so that's not going to work. It's literally like Goldilocks and the rubber bands, trying to find ones that work. And again, be more organized than I am, because I keep the bands just all over the place. I bought a little tackle box too that I can like sort the bands in, but I have yet to bother to use that. Now here's one, but this one is too thin. Now that is an issue when you do get the new bands, they are thinner. We have yet to be able to find anything that is the thickness that is needed for Miss Cricut. All right, let's see. This one, that one's not too bad. Oop. As I drop it. Oh, I got another one here. Ooh, I got a lot of bands down here. The problem with the bands is you get like a multi-pack, and then it's just a ton of bands in there, and then you don't need half of them because they're too big. But I never throw them out because you just never know. All right, yep, see, so this one, if you can see down here, it's too big. See, it's not even holding tight. So we're gonna find one that's smaller than this. And I might try this one. It's a lot smaller, but I wanna see how tight that gets, because the pulley is so strong. Yep, see, so that works good. Now, there are two levels to this. This one goes underneath, so it needs to be down low. And then the big one here, that one's gonna go on the top. So for this one, I don't need to replace it, but you know, I'm here, I'm open up, you know, who knows when that other band will go bad. So since I'm here, we'll see what we see. That one's a little loose, so we'll see what it does. All right, so now both bands are in place. I'm going to go ahead and play her, but remember that spring is there, so I'm always watching for that. But I don't want to put the other piece back on if she's not working yet, because then it's just more hassle. All right. And there she goes. So now you see her eyes are moving, and they are pretty yellow. Both of these are moving. Everything's good. Let's see. Vamonos. She has, I see like some hair. You know, she gets things tangled up inside of her. I just try to clean it up if there's anything weird on the inside. All right, another thing I do is, I believe, I'll put some. Those batteries sound horrible. She said, wait for it. Vamonos. Oh, well, never mind. Her tape has stopped. But that's fine. We know she plays. So normally what I do is, if these are dried out, which these are actually really good, I get some silicone lubricant and I put in there just because we don't want it to seize up. But because she was doing well there, she's good to go. So now all you gotta do is just put this back on. Remember, watch out for the little spring. There we go. And it's easy as that. Like, it's literally, you just change these two bands and that's it. Now, again, that is only for her facial expressions, which is 99% of the time the problem. If she works, like her cassette player works, great. I'll be honest, I don't really know how to fix the cassette player. I have tried, and it is so complicated down in there with the circuit boards and stuff that I really haven't bothered. But it's not often I get broken cassette players. Her spring, like, it works, but it is pretty stretched. But she seems to be doing okay. All right, so that is it for Miss Cricket. Let me just put this back on and get her back together. Easy peasy. Just the 4 screws. And then normally what I do is I don't put her back in the foam body yet because I need to clean the foam body. Right, so I use Goop liquid, like hand cleaner, like degreaser, and then a magic eraser on her vinyl arms and legs if needed. And then same thing for her face, but I'm always very, you know, aware of her paint that are on her eyebrows and eyelashes and her lips. So you don't want to get anything there that could possibly damage. Not good. All right, so she is back together, but I don't like, I'm gonna hold off. So the screws should go back in fairly easy, and if one of them doesn't, it could be several things. It could be grab the wrong screw. It could be, more likely though, there could be something like a wire maybe that got moved, like when, you know, you took the case off and put it back on. And if you force that screw through there, you could force through that wire. So we're not going to do that. I'll open her back up and see what we see. All right, I think the batteries are just not happy with us, but let her go for a second.
My friend Jomo lives in Africa.
So she's looking around, doing her thing.
Wild animals that live there.
Yeah, let's see if I can stop her. So looking at her eyes, yeah, she's pretty bad, but you know, it might even be just dirt. So I'll have to give that a clean. I don't have any water. I have alcohol and vinegar, but not water nearby. And I don't want to put any of that on there in case, because again, this isn't a decal, this is painted on and it'll rub off very quickly. But that's it. So after I get her all clean and washed, I do her hair. Some people, you can take this off, and as you saw, there really wasn't anything metal on the inside, but there is a few things like screws and whatnot. So I usually keep their face covered and try not to get any water inside there. Like I said, some people take this off. That way you definitely, because if water was to get in her eye, which is very easy because it's open really, there's a big gap there, that would go straight down into her cassette player and ruin it basically. So if I do end up washing her hair and whatnot, I usually will leave her face down or face up like this and let it dry for a couple of days, just in case something got wet on the inside. It's not going to hurt anything up here, but it will down here. So I'm going to let it dry for a couple of days just to make sure I set her aside for that. But once her hair is done and everything is good, then it's super easy. Like I said, you just get the body, put her back. If you want to put the foam back in there, you can buy new foam, or sorry, new tape for the foam, or you can just leave it be. But it pushes back on there, and then you get that new zip tie. You run it down through there, pull it tight, get her hair stuck in the Velcro, and that's it. And then she's back together. So this same exact method is what works for Corky, because they literally have the same back. So you can even take their heads off and swap them. There is no difference on the inside. Oh, she doesn't have it. So I've mentioned this before. It's funny. Some of the, when originally, obviously there was just Cricket. So it says Cricket on her little plush tag on the side. But then when Corky came out, they were just cheap. So instead of making, it's literally the same body. So it had Cricket on there, and they just literally took a white out pen and whited out Cricket. And then they were like, you know what? That's just too much trouble. So they just dropped Cricket from the tag altogether. So it's just like a generic tag now. But all right, so that was a really long video, but I've, had a couple people asking those questions. So I will probably not get to her for a little bit because I am working on a bunch of Jills right now. That's what's kind of like right here on the side of the camera is arms. I hate working on arms so much. They are so fragile. And I have lots of arms. These are the broken ones. Well, the arm is broke, but I need to change the bands. Arms everywhere. So it's never a dull moment. Always something to work on, but I like it because it keeps me busy. But all right, thank you so much. I hope you learned something here about our old pal Cricket and how she operates on the inside of her head. And of course, like always, I appreciate having you here. I love all the comments, definitely the likes. If you're new to my channel and you're looking at how to fix Cricket, hopefully this helped. And if you want to subscribe, I don't do a lot of tutorials on Cricket or Corky too much anymore, but if you go back to my past library, you'll find a lot of stuff there. But you just never know. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this girl and her weird, like, amber eyes. So I like weird varieties, so I'll probably end up keeping her, but I don't need any more crickets. So that means one of my other ones will have to go. So we'll just see what happens. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.